Jocko and Mo helped Boxer lift Gallegos into the Night Rider, parked in the driveway, and they drove to Chuco Castro's apartment, 4 miles away in Alhambra. Chuco, Boxer's prison pal, was also recently paroled. They stopped off to buy some Yum Yum donuts and a 12-pack of ice-cold Coronas for Chuco and his wife. It was Chuco who first marked Pelon as a coward. Pelon rode sitting up in the front passenger seat as if he was passed out from a mean drunk. Boxer planned it that way so that if they were stopped, they could tell police, "We were just taking him home. The guy is loaded, man. He's messed up. Just look at him. He's still sawing logs." At Chuco's, they gave the donuts to his wife, gave Chuco some cash and heroin, and all drank a few beers. Boxer said, "Hey, guess what? Guess what I got? What's that? I got a guy in the car. You want to see him? Who is it?" "That guy, man. I think he's dead." Chuco walked out to the Night Rider and looked in. "Oh, this fool." He told the same story about Pelon acting like a coward when they went to shake down a drug dealer. Then he leaned inside the car and started slapping the limp figure across the head. "You dummy, look at you. You're fucking dead." Still, Boxer wanted to be sure. They all drove back to Chino Avila's house in East Los Angeles. Enriquez went in and explained only that they had to take care of something. "Let's go, get your shit and let's go." Chino would later tell the police that Boxer slapped him and forced him to go. Enriquez said that it was a lie, that Chino went willingly. Chino crawled into the back seat of the Night Rider and sat between Boxer and Mo. Pelon, slouched over and unconscious in the front passenger seat, moaned as Jocko stepped on the gas and drove off. Boxer says Chino got the picture immediately and suggested that Spence Street behind the V&E housing projects was the perfect place for a murder. Then Boxer barked out some driving directions. 4 turns and a mile away, the car pulled up into the mouth of an alley that ran behind a row of small factories on Spence Street in an industrial area about a mile from Toppers. Boxer ordered Mo out of the car. "Watch, right here." Jocko drove down the alley and stopped in a dark spot. Only a shadow of light spilled in from a nearby security lamp. Boxer ordered Chino out of the car to watch the other end of the alley. He hesitated. "Well, move. Get the fuck out of the car and watch up the street." Chino started to walk. Boxer grabbed the back of Pelon's collar and began dragging him from the car into the pavement. He placed a gray sheepskin seat cover over the victim's face to protect himself from blood splatter and put 5 noisy bullets into Pelon's head with the short barrel .357 Magnum Trooper Mark III, just in case he wasn't dead already. Boxer looked up after it was done, and Jocko Padilla was standing there like a little scared kid with his fingers in his ears. Jocko was a ruthless businessman and a great thug, noted Boxer, but he was never a killer. As they left the crime scene, Enriquez couldn't resist telling his crew, "I'm Boxer from the MA. Nobody fucks with me. This is my town." He also explained that he killed Pelon because it was a contract hit. "I take care of contracts," he boasted. They all went off and got loaded again. David Pelon Gallegos was left on his back, legs extended and spreaded apart. His right arm folded across his nose, laid out on the concrete in a small pool of his own blood. His blue sweatshirt and t-shirt were pulled up over the back of his head, exposing his front and faded tattoo of Our Lady of Guadalupe that reached from his neck down past his navel. He had 65 cents in his pocket. There appeared to be a little sneer frozen on his lips. It was December 30th, 1989, the day before a not very happy New Year's Eve. Back at Topper's place a few days later, loaded on drugs and shaky with paranoia, Mo was all bug-eyed and sweaty. Jocko didn't look any better. That was enough to make Boxer more than a little paranoid himself. The terrible trio was posing for a photograph when Mo took off running for some unexplained reason. That spun Boxer into a psychotic episode of his own. "I thought they were going to do me." So he quickly stuck the barrel of a .357 Magnum into the neck of a scared and pleading Jocko, walked him to their car, and ordered him to drive to Olympic and Soto. There, I was going to shoot him and dump his body in an alley behind a Sears warehouse. "If you're going to shoot me," shouted Jocko, "just shoot me." Boxer couldn't pull the trigger. After an hour of driving around, Jocko pleaded for his life. Boxer finally handed over the gun and Padilla emptied the cartridges onto the seat. Jocko said, You're just tripping today." Then he took Enriquez home and dropped him in bed. 4 days after the Gallegos murder, 18-year-old Carlos Sanchez and his 17-year-old homie, George Molina, were hanging out on the sidewalk in the front. 4 days after the Gallegos murder, 18-year-old Carlos Sanchez and his 17-year-old homie, George Molina, were hanging out on the sidewalk in front of 1115 Rosalind Avenue, several blocks from Toppers and Boyle Heights. It was 5:30 p.m. when the night rider pulled up in front of them. Chino and Mo slid out of the passenger side of the car. "Where's your fat friend?" asked Chino as he motioned for Sanchez to come closer. Mo ordered Molina to stay back. Chino then pulled a .38 from his waistband and pointed it at Sanchez. "I know you have money, so get on your knees." Little Mo then cleaned out the victim's pockets. $38 in cash. They got back into the car and drove off with Boxer at the wheel. A woman who watched it happen from the window of her house called the police. She also knew Chino Aviles and identified him as one of the robbers. The victim pointed out Boxer Enriquez's photo as the driver and gave a good description of the getaway vehicle. More than 2 hours later, two cops in a black and white spotted the night rider parked in the driveway of Chino's house. Mo and his girlfriend came out and got into the black Dodge. The officers followed for a few blocks until Mo parked outside Toppers. He got out and was busted, fitting the description of the second robber who was with Chino. The same day, LAPD detectives heard from SSU investigators that Boxer Enriquez knew Pelon Gallegos from Folsom Prison. Detective Forsman had developed a good working relationship with an SSU agent named Brian Perry. Brian was so knowledgeable about prison life. He and I would get information about different players and fly all over the state trying to beat kites that were coming out of the prison system about the murder. At the same time, Los Angeles County Sheriff's prison gang experts said there were rumors that Boxer was given a hit by mafia bosses. Still, there wasn't yet enough evidence to charge him, and they didn't know where he was. "We searched for him from pillar to post," recalled Detective Forsman. Surveillance vans with LAPD detectives and SSU agents sat outside Topper's place, Boxer's hangout, for days. Agent Perry remembered, "I was in court when I got a page that we had a location that Boxer frequented, and we spent many nights on surveillance. We had a couple of unmarked vans, all metal inside, which made it twice as cold. So we started bringing blankets to put on the floor so we wouldn't be constantly kneeling on the cold." Perry knew Boxer was dangerous and would return to his haunt. "They are creatures of habit. We expected to get into a shootout with them." Amazingly, there never was a Boxer sighting, despite the fact that he was in and out of Topper's dope house every day. Boxer knew from the word on the street that cops were looking for me, so I always came up a side street and entered the left through the back door. On January 10, 1990, another anonymous call came into LAPD's Hollenbeck division with information that Boxer Enriquez could be found at his mother's apartment on Whittier Boulevard. Officer Bill Eagleson and his partner, both in a gang unit known as CRASH, Community Resources Against Street Hoodlums, arrived to find the front door partially open. He knocked and it opened further. Boxer was in a heroin stupor, lying on a bed just 3 feet away. "We've been looking for you, Renee," said Eagleson as he slapped on the handcuffs and arrested Boxer for his part in the Sanchez robbery. In a suspect interview room at the LAP Hollenbeck Division Station House, Detective Forsman kept playing with a new Rolex watch on his wrist, a gift from his girlfriend, as he asked Boxer some questions about the murders. Enriquez denied everything. As Forsman left the room, a cocky Boxer told him, "With all due respect, you'll never get this by a preliminary," a reference to a mandatory judicial hearing where a prosecutor is required to show enough evidence to get a case to trial. He couldn't have been more wrong. 2 days later, Chino Aviles was picked up at 8 o'clock in the morning a few blocks from his home by a special gang intelligence unit called the Detective Support Division, or DSD. By 10, he was being interviewed by Homicide Detective Forsman, and at first Chino denied everything too, both the robbery and the murders. An hour into the interrogation, as Forsman talked about the trauma for the victims' families, Aviles changed his mind. Deputy District Attorney Alan Carter of the Organized Crime Division then joined them. The audio tape was rolling as Chino told them all he knew. By 7:30 that same evening, police had recovered a cache of Boxer's weapons in the trunk of a broken down 1969 Chevy parked in Chino's driveway, and the Gallegos murder gun buried miles away in a trailer park. The next day, Chino led them to the 5 spent casings buried behind a factory several blocks from the crime scene. 4 days after that, Boxer and Mo, already being held in LA County Jail for the Sanchez robbery, were booked for the murder of Cynthia Galvedon. The next day, Topper Alleman told cops everything he knew too, and Boxer and Mo were charged with the murder of David Pelon Gallegos as well. Despite the sworn preliminary hearing testimony of Chino Ables regarding Padilla's role in the murder, Jocko was never charged.